Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Flow. We're thrilled to have you all here at the stunning Rivian South Coast Theatre in Laguna Beach, what promises to be a fascinating conversation. Creativity Flow is a collaboration between the Laguna College of Art and Design and Group Y, with the goal of convening today's visionary leaders in the worlds of art, design, and commerce to share groundbreaking ideas and inspire the next generation of creative minds. Tonight, we have the immense pleasure of speaking with Nikki Scoggins, Vice President of Creative Design and Content at Blizzard Entertainment. Nikki is an incredible force in gaming and creative industries, leading marketing and design efforts in some of the most iconic franchises in the world, like Warcraft, Overwatch, and Diablo. Her journey is not only inspirational, but it's a masterclass in the power of creativity, innovation, and leadership. With over 20 years of experience working in some of the biggest brands in entertainment and lifestyle, from Vans to Viacom, Nikki has crafted an impressive career that balances creativity with business strategy. And now, as part of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, she's overseeing a new chapter in the evolution of gaming. Nikki, we're so excited to have you with us today.
Oh my God, girl, there's like so many people. Amazing. Thanks for letting me come hang out with y'all. I figure most of you, or at least half of you, might not be super familiar with Blizzard or any of the games that I work on. So maybe we should roll a little sizzle reel, give some context.
Run it up. How is he still alive right now? Run it up.
Please tell me I'm not the only one who puts a knife between the box spring and the mattress.
Yes.
What's up, world? My name is Dioxide. Welcome to our Game Guys series.
And they're gonna finish them off out of nowhere. Liquid are gonna stay alive.
It's about connection. It's home.
Megan, how do we talk about being gay?
Time is up.
Wow.
There we go. I mean, I thought that might be helpful. Thanks for your patience with it. But when I'm learning about new agencies and new people, I'm always kind of like, well, what did you actually do? So I thought maybe that would be helpful to some of the students to actually understand what it is that I work on before so you have some context. Because when we think about gaming and what Blizzard makes, you think about the dev side and making the games, but we have this whole giant machine to make all of the content around that to get the game to you. So there we go.
So let's get a show of hands. How many players do we have in the room on the Warcraft or Diablo or Overwatch games? Right.
Oh my God.
There we go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Nikki, you've had an incredible career spanning 20 years, working with some of the biggest brands in both entertainment and lifestyle. Take us back to the beginning and what drew you into the world of creative marketing in the first place? And how did your time at Burton and Vans shape your approach to design and brand building?
Ooh, okay. So 90s kid. I grew up on a farm in South Carolina. This was a catalog we had called CCS. And so we would wait, and someone had a subscription to this catalog. And this is how I learned about design. And when the first time I saw this, just the different kinds of art styles that were in this, it just blew my mind because, yeah, we got art class, but it's like, okay, you learn about Caravaggio and like Andy Warhol and like Chagall. And then there's a giant gap of like hundreds of years. And then this catalog. And I'm like, wait a second. Okay, there's more. There's more. And then, I kind of was like, I was focused on that, got into drawing those. And then I went on this art school field trip to New York. I had never been on a plane, anything. And then was introduced to this artist called William Kentridge. He's a South African artist. And, I ran into, just by chance, an exhibition of his work at, I think it was at the Guggenheim. And I did, based on basically CCS catalogs and William Kentridge, I did 2 like AP portfolios and got a scholarship to art school. And that was how I figured out that I wanted to be in graphic design and start my little career in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So where did you go from there then?
I mean, long story short, I was also a super, super passionate snowboarder. However, I was really, really horrifying at actually the sport part of it. So I knew I was going to have to get a job coming out of college, unfortunately. And so I was absolutely obsessed with getting a job in action sports. So I harassed everyone at every company whose email I could publicly find. Ultimately, I ended up designing a book all about snowboarding, got it into the hands of some folks at Burton, and they gave me my first job. Because who is this maniac child that has sent a book that she handmade? And it got me in the door. And then from there, I went on to work at Forum, and then ultimately ended up at Vans. Shout out my Vans homies in the room. That's where I once I got to Vans was where I really, really learned what marketing and brand is all about.
So at that point, you were going into Vans kind of at the peak of when they are really at the top of their branding game.
Oh yeah. And like some of the work that I was looking at was just like, we're, looking at David Carson. I'm looking at, how do we, look at zine culture and bring that into the stuff that we're making at Vans on the day-to-day. And we kind of do whatever we wanted to. There wasn't a lot of restrictions on creativity in the marketing department then. We had, kind of briefs, but, the other side of it was, okay, you have your business objectives, but what else do you want to make? And so, the way that people were really pushing the bounds of what was happening in typography and printmaking at the time really, gave a lot of freedom, along with just the fact that we had this new accessible technology in Macs and, having our own video cameras. We could go out and shoot and edit and make whatever we wanted to. So, that was also just very, the DIY culture at Vans was real and true. So, yeah, I think that ability to just, there were absolutely no rules. That was another key learning from Vans. There is everything that we had been told was true, was just made up by somebody. more often the legal department, but they couldn't always find us. So just knowing that, existentially speaking, there were not any barriers to anything we wanted to make was, that one's really stuck with me through my career. So thanks, fans.
So what kind of positions are you holding and what kind of projects are you working on?
So at the time, most of what I worked on at Vans was creating social. So like this is one of my favorite images from that time, shot by my friend Brian Derbala, and it really just like captured that like DIY and the feeling of the time, because we would shoot these shows, we would shoot and create all of this stuff with our friends, and everything was true and real because we were living that also. It wasn't like we were going in and just doing a job. It was we were making the art that we wanted to see because we were also living that life. And I think that kind of I guess like that kind of true believer mentality was what made everything work. It was just like it was honest. So another good lesson from that time.
So kid comes out of the South, right?
Yeah.
Transferred to California, gets into the action sports scene.
Whew.
You are kind of coming out of an art school where you're given the freedom to just create and then thrust into a space that really has no convention and you're creating day to day. There must have been a freedom in that. Or was it terrifying?
No, it was crazy. I mean, we were literally trying to we had jobs that didn't have, job descriptions. We were writing our own, well, what are we going to do today? What is social media about? What should we put on the internet? I'm like, I don't know, pictures of my friends, and it's so crazy to think about, but we were pioneers at the time. We were literally starting all of these accounts in 2005 and 2007, and there was no one to tell you what to do, and the adults didn't know how to get on the platforms. So we just kept posting what was working and whatever we liked, and whatever we liked was what the audience liked because we were the audience. So still holds true. If you like it, then your audience is going to like it. If you don't like it, don't put it out in the world, because if it doesn't pass the smell test with you as the artist, then don't do it.
And you're dealing with a very kind of authentic counterculture, right? That's very true to itself. And you have to speak to that culture authentically to be accepted.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise you're just, you don't want to try to be something you're not, even for yourself. And if you definitely want to hire your biggest fan if you're not it. So if you're in a position where you're like, I don't know, like I was not the person to talk about surfing at Vans. Nolan, who is out here somewhere, my friend Nolan was the person to talk about surfing. So Nolan worked with me and, worked on that direct surf content because he was the best person for that. So, it's, you definitely have to make sure that the right voice is making the art that you need to put out.
So years of working in lifestyle branding where there's very few rules, right? Then you then transition to LA agencies where you must adhere to rules.
Oh, gross. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should try an agency if you haven't. I definitely found that I'm more on the brand side because I like to work on something over time and see it develop. I like to invest in things and grow things and, invest in people and grow people. And, the agency side was super cool because it was so innovative and so fast, but ultimately I didn't want to let the project go to the next thing, I was like, oh, okay, bye Volkswagen, bye Taco Bell, bye, so it was cool that it switched gears, but yeah, it was definitely more rules forward. as we might say.
So then, what motivates you to transition into the gaming world, and specifically what attracted you to Blizzard Entertainment?
What attracted me to Blizzard? Well, I've always been a person who was really excited about new technology or like what's right over the horizon, and just okay, what's next? What's next? What can I do? What can I break? Arr. And so thinking about live service games being really the largest social networks, the largest content creation communities, was really fascinating to me. And also just that it was a whole world that I didn't know about, that was driven by these beautiful stories. And also within the stories, you're creating them, you're making them, and it's a world, that's up to you to a certain point. I just thought it was fascinating, so I wanted to see what's going on down the road.
So given that you're moving into a space, you could have been a gamer, maybe, but it could have been otherwise foreign to you.
Oh, it was totally foreign to me. Absolutely.
Did that pose any specific challenges to leading the creative teams there as a result?
Well, yeah, because like we were talking about before in like core communities, like in skateboarding, like gaming is absolutely a core community. If you don't know what the game is, for those of you, people have been playing. Warcraft is literally having its 30th anniversary. 20 years of World of Warcraft. Whole people have been born like since these games started. And so you can't, just like skateboarding, you can't just like walk in and be like, oh yeah, I know everything about this. Like, rare. Like, no, you don't. Same with gaming. No, you don't. What are you talking about? And so I think that, as well as being a lady, was definitely a challenge walking in. And I'm like, I'm not here to tell you about your game. Your game isn't your problem. Your game is like, we got to fix this creative groove and make sure that you can shine at your best. So, all of the smart people who really were passionate and knew the best thing for the games were already there. They just needed someone to help lift them out of, a little bit of a funk and like get the creative juices going back. So.
And how long have you been at Blizzard now?
3 years.
3 years. So
Yeah, I have some Blizzard people here. Hi, friends.
Where are they?
Thank you.
There they are. Okay, great. So can you give us a behind-the-scenes glimpse of what it's like overseeing the marketing and creative efforts for these massive global communities with such rabid fan bases?
Yeah, it can be intimidating because if they don't like something, they will tell you. They will tell you. They will tell you again. And, so it really makes you sometimes second guess your risk taking. But then at the same time, you're like, well, no, it's my job. I have to, like, if we're not pushing or the bounds of, where our sandbox is and what are we even doing here? We can't just make the same stuff over and over and over. So, I think it's definitely a balance of, trying to find the next thing that stays true to the creative while also continuing to evolve. Because again, with such storied titles, such iconic franchises, you can't, you don't want to do anything that doesn't feel true to those worlds just for the sake of doing something new. That's not the right way. So, it's definitely a balancing act in trying to push that.
So I want to delve into your process, but first, if we could give the audience a snapshot, just what does your team look like, its size, its composition, and the role that you play within Blizzard?
Okay. So essentially, it's an internal agency. So my team is about 100, and it's a whole bunch of different kinds of people. So we create, like we're showing in that sizzle reel. It's like we have motion designers, we have graphic designers, we make books, we make dev videos, we make social content, we make any kind of mess that we possibly can. Like I was telling Mark earlier, like my team comes in today and they're like, we've been working on this dope t-shirt cannon for like 6 hours. Like the t-shirt cannon is amazing, huh, Jason? Isn't it? So, so many different kinds of folks. We do animation as well, to a certain degree. But like our place sits specifically like we're a quick turn kind of marketing group. We make creative as fast as we possibly can. Then we have our absolutely pixel perfect trailer house. That's Blizzard Video. And then we have our story and franchise team who do all of those incredible cinematics among other things. So there's 3 different creative groups there, that, either do things for the dev side or for the marketing side. We also work with a lot of external creative agencies as well.
Thanks. Okay, a 2-part question. With your extensive background in both agency and client-side work, how do you balance creative freedom with the business goals that are often accompany large-scale marketing projects? And what leadership lessons have you learned that help foster creativity within your teams and keep them performing at a high level?
Oh gosh. Okay. So business goals. That one's super hard when you have a really incredible creative team who are fighting for something they really believe in and want to do, but it is not based in any sort of business or budgetary strategy that makes sense. And so I think what I try to foster with my team is help me pick your battles. If there is something that that one of my team member is super, super passionate about, and they're like, this is the one, this right here, this is my hill, I want to die on it, let's go. I'm like, okay, let's rip. We can do this one, but make sure this is the one. And you can't say that like every month, I think for the most part, it comes back to, the old, like, did you stick to the brief? I'm sorry. If you didn't stick to the brief, then this is not based in reality. Then it's a pitch. But, I think it's important on the note of pitches, you have to be able to have a space for coming up with big ideas and giving people the room to do that. Just know you're not always going to be able to do those pitches. Like that's for your art. You need to have your art on your own. And your art can't just be your work, Like you really need to be able to have your own creative freedom that's true to what you want to make, that has nothing to do with your job. Because when you leave that job, you don't want your identity tied up with like, oh my God, I'm not at Blizzard anymore or whatever. You still have you and your own identity and you know who you are as an artist. So I think that's, you need to think about both sides of that coin.
Now, the recent acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft is a historic moment in the gaming industry. How did the change impact your role and your team's creative process? And what opportunities do you see for blending Blizzard's culture with the greater culture of Microsoft and its vision for the future of gaming?
Oh, that's a spicy one. So very honestly, like my overlords are not even here, and I like them. I think they're super cool.
You were there last week, yeah?
Yeah, I was up there hanging out last week. So we sit within the Xbox Game Studios. The transition has been very cool. Basically, we operate as an independent studio with them, and partner with them so we can all build a business together. It really hasn't had an impact on the day-to-day stuff of like what we work on. They've just it's just more of like we have more of a corporate backbone, I think. Some of the back end things that were kind of a pain in the butt aren't anymore. But then like anything change is super scary. The future and what the future of gaming is incredibly complicated and exciting, and I'm I'm humbled to get to be part of that, really. So, I can't, I certainly don't know enough to speak to the future of gaming. You have to get another smarty pants up here to talk about that. But, I'm excited to be on the bus along for the ride.
Well, let's hang out in the future for a minute, just as it applies to your craft. So with the rapid advancement of technology, specifically AI, how do you envision the future of creative content evolving in your industry? And what are you most excited about with this next wave of innovation?
Ooh, yes, 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 yes. So to use an overused and also frightening word, AI for creative departments. So here's how I think about it. It's like, okay, 20 years ago, everybody was like, oh my God, social media, no. 100 years before that, everyone was like, oh no, telephones, gross. So this is just another tool that can help us be better at stuff. So, when I think about what I hope for the creatives on my team, what I hope is that we can use these new tools to take all the tedious day-to-day stuff off their plates so that their brains have enough energy to go like, oh, okay, what's my big idea? What do I actually want to make instead of 70 different versions of this banner? Because that's not where I want your brain as a creative. We can make a tool for that so that your human, beautiful brain can actually like fuel the ideas that want to, propel us forward.
So LCAD, the student body composition, is actually 75% female. So we're actually producing the youths of tomorrow. So as a woman leading a high-performance creative team in a male-driven industry, what challenges have you faced and what advice do you have for other women aspiring to leadership positions in the creative fields?
Oh my God. Well, I think that I don't want to get into is just like sitting up here and talking about all the bad stuff that has happened to us throughout our careers and on the day-to-day as women who work or walk out our doors or like any of that. Because like we all know what that is. Half the 70% of your students, deal with that all the time. I think that what I would like to focus on is like it's not I don't like the women in the workplace don't need to change. We're doing our thing. We're looking out for each other. We need y'all men to be better allies. We need y'all to quit messing around, pay attention, be proactive. Let me give you one example of a good thing. So many years ago, I used to have to go to all kind of skate events, right? So me and my girl were locked at the arms because we knew we were probably going to be the only women at this event full of 500 dudes. So we already knew what to do. We were looking out for each other, but there was one of my friends who was a little bit older than us. And since this is a good thing, like if any of the old heads know him, Chris Narako. So Narako comes up to us and he's like, this place is sketchy. You two are not getting out of my sight this whole night, not even to go to the bathroom. And you know what happened that night? Nothing happened, y'all. Because this man was like, no, my spidey senses are going off. I'm gonna proactively look out for my girls. So that's the kind of stuff that we need y'all to do. So that's that. That's my soapbox.
So it's been a pleasure to get to know you over these last few weeks, and you have a very authentic sense of self. Going back to the topic of leadership, how do you remain authentic to yourself in a corporate space that often encourages conformity as a pathway to success?
Okay, so this is one that, most people I think will deal with through their careers. If you want to move up. And you have to figure out that balance between who you are and what makes you feel like the most comfortable, but also, figuring out what that looks like as a professional. So, you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. I am definitely not. But if you're not a fit in one place, you can just leave that place. You can go to another place that's more you. Or think about it like this: if some executive is telling you you don't have the right you don't have an executive presence. That's one that comes up. What does that even mean? What are you talking about? And there's probably 50 people lined up behind you that are pumped that you are the person that you are, because they're not trying to be like that jerk that just said you don't have an executive presence. So I think you just kind of have to, it's a hard one. That one is incredibly difficult. It's been hard for me, but you just have to be confident in, having a self-respect that can stay true to what you believe, let you sleep well at night, so, and if it ain't that, then move on.
Nicely said. So many of the students here at LCAD are aspiring graphic designers, game designers, and artists. What advice would you give to those looking to follow in your footsteps? What skills or experiences should they focus on to thrive in the world of creative marketing and gaming? In other words, if Nikki today could have a conversation with Nikki in art school, what would you tell her?
Oh my God, do not be humble. Do not. These people will take credit for your work. You're going to be nice and you're like, oh my God, it's a great project. No. Get your name on that stuff. Get your flowers. And I'm not saying don't be a jerk. Along with that, you need to make your friends, help everyone you can with every DIY project. Make all the things you can, but don't let anyone steal your credit, because especially if you decide to go work in entertainment, man, they will grab that title from you, and that's just the way it is. So definitely fight for yourself and fight for the creative you want to do, because there ain't nobody else is gonna do it. You're out of school. There's no professor to kind of plod you along, and you got everybody else to compete with to get to where you want to be. So I think just push it and keep making stuff.
So I'm curious, when you sent that portfolio of work to Burton, was that based on advice from a professor or just your own initiative?
No, I was just I made this project and I think it will help me get this job because it makes me look like the hugest snowboard nerd ever. And actually, on that note, I had someone who was trying to harass me to get a video project, he wanted to be an editor. He sent me a birthday cake with his face on it. And I have been working with him for a decade. Hi, Alex.
That's amazing. Any final advice for our students here tonight as they kind of leave LCAD and go into the workforce?
Oh my God. I didn't know there was a final question on the test. No, I think maybe just, I do think that continuing to be able to create work that makes you happy outside of your work is incredibly important, and to definitely always be making. Do not wait on permission to do anything, to make any work that you want to make. If you want to go make a movie, if you want to make a game, figure it out with your friends, make a version of it. But sitting back and just being like, oh my God, I hope I get a job. I applied to so many. That's not going to get you where you want to be. At least it's not going to keep you happy, you know?
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and it has been a pleasure getting to know you. I really want to encourage our students, if you stick around afterwards, please come and talk to Nikki. She is a wealth of knowledge, especially those in gaming who idealize getting into Blizzard one day. Your advice to our aspiring creatives has been inspirational and invaluable, and I hope that many of our students, will be up here on the stage and we'll be interviewing them in the future. On behalf of LCAD and Group Y, we're deeply grateful for your time. And can we get a round of applause, please, for Nikki Scoggins?